Hello everybody, Brad Johnson here. Welcome. I am here in Long Beach, California, or pretty close to Long Beach, California. Was it Garden Grove, California? Not too far from Anaheim, with a wonderful new teacher of mine, new Kriya Yoga teacher, good friend of mine as well too, Forrest Knutson. He is here. You guys can follow Forrest's YouTube channel. I've put it in the video description as well too. Please give him a like, a subscribe. You definitely want to check out his channel. His information is phenomenal. His work over the years have been outstanding, and I'm just happy to finally meet him in person. I've been waiting quite a while, but because we had COVID back in 2020, I wasn't able to come down. So it's basically 3 years in the making. But now I'm finally able to come down, and had a wonderful experience. I can't share what that experience is, it's private. But it was a very, very powerful experience, and it does involve Kriya Yoga. So I'm just happy to be here with Forrest, and Forrest, thank you for agreeing to have this interview with me today. So
Absolutely.
So Forrest, can you talk about what drove you into Kriya Yoga? What was it that Kriya Yoga was something that you wanted to get involved with? Because I know you've had a lot of strong spiritual background even since the beginning of your life. What got you very much into this flow of yoga?
Well, I'm trying to remember.
Quite a while ago.
Yeah, so my mother would tell me, my mother had a vision when I was in her womb. She would see this monk coming up a set of stairs, but he was kind of strange because he was wearing armor. So he was a monk, he had a shaved head, and he was also wearing armor, which I guess it was a spiritual warrior, right? So she kept seeing that, and he would come up on the stairs, and he'd come up on the stairs. And at the top of the stairs, there was this light, and the monk reached the light, and then I was born. And I grew up with that story, and that's enough to just set your hair on fire, right?
Right.
And then she would tell me stories about meditation, and she would also read me the stories of Lobsang Rampa, and that was enough to hook me. I'm like, this meditation, this is where it's at, right? And so that was kind of lingering in the background of my mind, and then, of course, you go into the world, and the world is awful, and you say, what's the purpose of life, right? And so I started asking those questions. I was a teenager, and I started looking for a meditation technique, and I was in a small town in northern Idaho, and there was like one spiritual bookstore, and then there were two spiritual bookstores, and that was you didn't have all the online resources that you have today. And so it was very limited, and everything that I could get my hands on in terms of meditation was imagine a flower opening. And I'm like, what is this? What? Give me a solid technique.
Right.
And then I read Autobiography of a Yogi, and he mentioned Kriya Yoga, and it was scientific, it was based on principles, and I thought, oh my God, I've come home. This is Kriya Yoga, this is it right here.
So it's very much like it's science. A lot of people will basically look at Kriya Yoga and say, well, what is it? Is it kind of like, do I go to my yoga studio and start working with that kind of yoga? It's something that's much more, I would say, of a spiritually adept version of yoga, I would say, in that sense. Not even really a version, but just the idea of true union.
Yes.
That come together with Kriya Yoga. So I'm sure maybe some people on my channel may be aware of Mahavatar Babaji.
Yeah.
Basically how he met Lahiri Mahashai.
Yeah. Just
in regards to Paramahansa Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi. If you guys have not seen it, you should read it. It's a wonderful book. I have it at home. How has that impacted? Like, have you had any of those kind of experiences, I guess you could say, with going into other planes, to where you could see Mahavatar Babaji, or you could see Lahiri Mahashai, or Paramahansa Yoga? Has there been some of those kind of experiences that have driven you further into wanting to explore Kriya Yoga?
Absolutely. So the way I like to explain it is that we have a right side of our brain, and this is really the God brain. This is our guardian angel brain, which is looking after you continuously. So they say that the bird will lean down to peck at the seed on the ground, and as he does that, he turns his head to the left because he has to look with his right eye, which is cross-connected to the left brain. So as we become more aggressive and predator-like, and we eat our food like the bird, he's turning his head to use that specific part of his brain. And so that's your left brain personality. That's our task doer through the day. And nature says you've got to have something that's looking out for you while you're pecking the seed. While the bird is pecking the seed, he also has the right hemisphere, which is continuously looking over him for any possible threat. And so that's the godlike parental figure. That's what the divine uses to come through and look over us in like a guardian angel, we would say in the West, right? And so the Indians had a lot of Ishtas. So they've got Ganesh, and they've got Shiva, and they've got Krishna, and they've got all these conceptions of the divine. So whatever is inside of your heart, you're going to find it in one of those forms, right? But the very deep yogi knows that all of those are just a window to the one consciousness, right? And so we form inside of our hearts this connection to the divine using that Ishta, which Ishta means favorite, right? So you pick your favorite, maybe it's Buddha, maybe it's Jesus. I teach Kriya Yogis and they're like, oh, it's all Jesus for me. I'm like, fantastic, that's it, that's your Ishta. And so you form that Ishta, and the divine, being so kind, says, well, I will swoop into that Ishta, no problem. I will come in and speak to you. The higher self will speak to you through that Ishta. And so that's a dualistic process. I'm here, God is here. That's dualistic, right?
Right.
And the yogi at the same time is trying to have this non-dual experience or non-dual awareness, this state where we come into that absolute stillness of the samadhi, right? Which you know about.
Yes.
And so,
certainly did. Yep.
But while you're on that pathway, looking for this huge awareness inside of yourself to unfold, right? Then you can also have one of these dualistic experiences. And I actually wrote my third training because I found that some of the yogis I was talking to, they didn't have an Ishta. They didn't have a prayer process. And it's just this huge part of your life that if it's not there, you're missing out on all this divine comedy of your own life, where you're going through life and then your Ishta appears to you and you're missing out on some of that. Or maybe your Ishta, the higher self comes to you in a form, and it comes to you in a dream. And then you wake up and you have that gift, and it's so fulfilling in your life. So now I'm doing a non-dual process, getting into that non-dual awareness on this side of my life, and then my higher self through the Ishta process is showing up on this side of my life. And it's just this infinite circle. We start to weave back and forth from the left brain personality to the right brain guardian angel brain, back and forth through that. And so, long philosophical answer to a simple question, but it's shown up quite a bit. I had a calcium deficiency, and it gave me kidney stones. This was years ago. I went to a naturopathic doctor. He's like, you need calcium. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, you need a certain kind of liquid calcium. So I started taking that, and it reversed the deficiency, and all the kidney stones went away. I was like, wow, okay, so I believe in nutrition.
Yes.
And I can't argue with that. That was amazing. And so I had my calcium, and I was supposed to take it every day, and so I kind of slacked off, right? It's in my fridge, but I kind of slacked off. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting on my couch, and Divine Mother shows up in the middle of I have a vision, right, of Divine Mother in the middle of the living room. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't usually happen. And then I saw her teeth. This is where it gets a little strange.
That's okay.
This was not a normal vision for me. Then I saw her teeth, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because I don't usually see her teeth. She's just smiling, and I don't notice her teeth.
It's like a picture perfect smile.
It was like really large teeth, not sharp, but just large.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's interesting. And then they started falling out. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And it's all happening really, really, really fast, right? It wasn't as slow as I'm explaining it.
Right.
But they all started to fall out, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going on? I don't have scary visions. I do the Navi, Kriya, which I talk a lot about on my channel, especially lately. And so I don't have scary visions, ever. A long time ago, I was in a different lineage of Kriya, and I didn't have the Navi, which is really, really unfortunate. And I did have scary visions at that time.
Was that during the ashram?
Yeah, that was in the ashram. Yeah, like especially right before or after sleep, I had a few of them during that time, and that's why the Navi and the Om Japa is so very important. Because of that, and I have stories from other monks as well that they also encountered that kind of thing, and it happens because of your right amygdala, and that's why the Navi Kriya is an insurance policy, and the Om Japa is an insurance policy against that, and so you got to have that whole. So I'm really happy you're here and learning the whole thing. It's really beautiful.
Well, I've noticed that a lot of yogis will not teach the way that you do, especially with a lot of what you have on the site. It's like, why aren't other yogis teaching this? Or basically, if we're looking at monks, if we're looking at Tibetan monks,
right.
They don't really do that. I'm not. Are they basically keeping a lot of this secret? Are they keeping this kind of like behind closed doors? Like you need to be at an initiated level for us to even teach you kind of stuff like what Forrest is teaching?
Well, it depends on what we're talking about. So what
I guess for common ashrams, even in India as well too, like they will, if you go into an ashram, they will not really teach you like what you're teaching.
No.
They'll keep it very, very simple and kind of very base, very kind of like skeleton crew based mentality in that area.
Yeah, I think a lot of yogis, but it's a whole it's like a cacophony of problems inside of the whole yogic and meditation world, and I'm doing my best to like address each little problem so we can kind of get an idea of what the landscape is.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are starting out with a preliminary understanding or a preliminary technique. And then that gets handed down so many times that becomes the actual technique, that this is the whole of it. It's like, no, that was, okay, here's an example. What is that breath? The victorious breath, right? Mm-hmm. So we, is a constriction of your throat, right? And so when you first learn that breath, it's supposed to be like if you're in a class.
Ujjayi pranayama.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. The Ujjayi pranayama. Can't talk.
It comes.
Can't talk. The Ujjayi pranayama. So in that technique, we constrict the throat, and the classical way that they teach that is to really, really, really constrict the throat. So you really, and you make it really loud.
Like throat friction.
Yeah, a lot of friction. And then once you've established that and you have the feel and you get the understanding, you start to get a little bit of the benefit from that, then, which is, by the way, elongating your breath. You're entering into heart rate variability because of that breath, because of the elongation of the breath, especially the out breath. So it all comes back down to the science of it. And so once you learn that, then you're supposed to cut that bigness in half, and it becomes more subtle, just like like you were doing a martial art. First, you're going to do the really big Shaolin movements, right? And then the Shaolin movements are supposed to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And so instead of going this, it becomes this, and it becomes smaller.
Subtle.
Yes, subtle, exactly. And so the same thing with all of these yogic techniques. They're supposed to shrink and get more subtle, but that huge part of it is left off, and so everybody's practicing this really, really strong ujjayi, and it's very, very physical, and it has to shrink. It has to become very, very small, and then you let go of the doing, and you become the being, and so there's this progression, which is very, very often left out.
Yeah, I noticed that with a lot of teachers, even in the East and the West, is they stick with the literacy, they stick with the scripture. And the scripture can only tell you so much. They don't realize that the scripture is just a guide to help you expand. They say, no, that's not in the scripture, right? This is how it should be in that sense. And I think that's what basically limits people so much, whether you're going to the East or whether you're going to the West especially.
Right.
Because we all have people following books and reading books and all that stuff. And especially what you and I did today, you cannot find that in a book, right? So it's the idea. And I think that's what people get caught up with, their traditions.
Yeah.
The traditions, the dogmas in regards to, I think, a lot of what the monks and yogis basically will do is saying, well, this is basically what I've been seeing. This is exactly what I've read. And it shouldn't go beyond that. People get so protected with their barriers about what they read and what they do through scripture.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. And that's all a left brain literal trap, right? And so you have to start asking, whatever your practice is, you got to start asking, what is this doing? How does this work? How does this transform me? And those questions are the beginning. It's like, what? Questions are the beginning of wisdom, right?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the track right there. And I started doing that 30 years ago. Why does this work? How does this work? Nobody can answer me.
Yeah.
And
so just follow the scripture.
that's right. This is what it says. This is what we do. This is, and it was just never enough. I was way too curious.
So one of your videos was about do, be, do, be, do. Right?
Yes.
Do, be,
Yes.
do, be, do. So
Yeah.
the important part as well, and they don't really mention this too much in yoga as well too, is the beingness. Right?
Yes.
Is working together and being still. It's kind of like in the Bible as they be still and know that I am God. Right?
Oh, beautiful.
And that is so important to really integrate into yourself, because I think so many people are doers, right?
Yes.
We're in the age of doers, and we need to start to move much more into being. And even just being in the heart is the idea of that beingness.
Yes.
Now, you talk a lot about left brain and right brain. So if a person comes in and say, well, Forrest, you talk a lot about left brain, right brain. Like, how can I get from here to there? What is the plan for that?
Yeah. Well, let me give
So
you
we're kind of looking at masculine, feminine brain in that way.
Absolutely. So the right brain is the really expansive brain. And the left brain is where we hold all of our words, right? So all of our labels, we label everything. And it's really a speed contest for your left brain. Like, how fast can I discard everything? Because if we didn't have it, it's a blessing, right? Because if we didn't have it, we would constantly be overloaded, we'd be drooling in our bed, we'd never get out. So we absolutely have to have it.
Yes.
But its whole job is to delete, distort, and generalize everything. And so your wife comes home and she's like, you didn't notice. I got my hair cut. I'm sorry, I have a left brain. It deletes, distorts, and generalizes everything. And I saw you and my wife, my left brain goes wife. That's it. That's all I saw.
Wife is there. That's all I saw. Right?
And that's how it works. That's exactly how your left brain works. So you don't actually see anything. You see a label: tree, park, kid, car. We just instantly
Puts a tag on everything.
We tag everything and then we discard it. And that's the left brain. And it's great for being in the world, for going to work, accomplishing a task, driving your car. But then you go to the sunset and you go, oh, sunset, right?
He's agreeing with you.
have a good audience.
Yeah.
So yeah, you go to the sunset, you see sunset, and you discard it, right? And now you can't enjoy your life, right? So the enjoyment comes out of, the meaning comes out of, the poetry meaning, the song meaning, the meaning of love, the meaning of a kiss, the meaning of a hug, all of that comes out of the right brain. So even, I see a tree and my left brain says TREE, tree, right? But the meaning of what that is, that comes all from the right brain. So if you can think about that, all the knowing in your whole life comes from the right brain. That's just gargantuan. And we spend most of our time in the left brain where there is no meaning, which is Hilarious.
This is why people get so confused, right? They're constantly, they see all these puzzle pieces scattered across from this go here, this go there. Like they're so busy trying to solve the puzzle, they don't understand what each piece means. And you go into the right brain, you see that there's already a puzzle, right? There's no broken pieces. You're seeing the big picture as it is, right?
That's right.
And so I guess the feeling is like, well, how do I get from that left to that right brain? Is it just a matter of surrender?
That's a good word. That's what a lot of, I know a very good lineage of Kriya.
I use it myself quite a bit.
Yeah. It's a beautiful word. It's perfect. And so the whole process of meditation is that process of getting from the left to the right. So it's something that we cultivate over years. And you, of course, are doing that.
Yeah.
And to get a taste of that really, really fast, we can use Hakala, which comes from the kahuna.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you just stare out in front of you and you pick, and so we've got a dog, right? And so you're trying to meditate. It's like, oh no, the dog. No, this is great. This is great. So you pick one point, and as you're looking at that one point, you begin to take everything into your periphery. And we can even take in the distracting sounds of the yipping dog. We say, oh, I'm gonna bring that in too. And so we start to absorb the whole. There's a crow, there's a dog, there's a child, there's a car. And I just take in everything in your peripheral vision. And that will put you, you'll feel just a little bit of that expansiveness. That is the right brain. And if you want to test it, so we can come out of that, we can test it and we can see, like, what is this really doing? Is this really working? Is it just mumbo jumbo? No, it's really working. And so think about something in your life that you really want. It's that thing that you can't get and you really want it. And you think about it, right? And you're focused right in your left brain. As you think about it, feel how much you want it and how frustrating maybe it might be that you're not getting it. Think about that, feel that, and now go into Hakala. Keep the feeling, go into Hakala. Pick the one point, expand into your periphery. You can even wiggle your fingers and try and see all of your fingers at once in your periphery. And what happened to the feeling?
It's gone.
It just
Vanishes.
It just vanishes, right? So sometimes you might notice that thing that you wanted, you go into that Hakala with it, and suddenly it's like, oh, it's just already here. It's I don't have to strive or struggle, or it will take you out of that left brain and into the right.
It becomes that automated surrender.
That's right. So the kahuna from Hawaii, they would use that all day and just cultivate the right brain. And it becomes something you can draw on. That people go crazy, your life goes crazy, the world goes crazy, and you go into that space. And so, sometimes people will say, oh, well, become the witness. Well, people will say, well, I don't know what does that mean? I don't know how to do that. This will do it.
Hakala is it, right?
Hakala will do it. You will become the witness in a very healthy way. So,
especially with people who are the busy workers, right? So they'll drive, right? They're driving in traffic and all that stuff, and this is something that they can also apply.
Yeah.
So basically, it's okay, just put your gaze forward, right?
Yes.
What are you witnessing? Absorb it all, right? It's kind of going into that state of absorption, where absorption becomes automatic to surrender.
That's right.
At the same time.
I recommend, don't do Hakala when you're driving.
Probably not.
Maybe when you're parked in traffic,
parked, yeah.
That's the perfect time.
Yeah.
Then eventually, maybe you can graduate to do
Or you're at the office.
Yeah.
Just don't get too distracted away from your work. Yeah. So that's just a good thing. That's you demonstrating, seeing for yourself the right brain.
That's
so
right.
that mentality of watching everything just vanish that was once problematic for yourself.
That's right. And watch yourself when you go to like a sunset. So you're in the sunset and you're like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And you're just taking everything in. And then the left brain dominance will come in. It will go, oh, look at that. I have to look over here. And then, oh, look at that. Look at this. I have to look at this one little thing over here. And I have to look at this one little thing. And pretty soon, your left brain, which is doing what it's supposed to do, it's chopping up your reality and saying, this is this and this is that, and label. Now I can discard it, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can feel that, you can see that happening in yourself, and then go back into the whole. And then it will happen again, and then you go back into the whole. And it's a beautiful way to begin to see these two pathways, these two ways of seeing that are inside of us all the time.
Wonderful. I think the best thing to conclude with our last question is, how have things been with you as of late? Have there been really great breakthroughs that you've been going through, maybe over the past few weeks, that you've maybe had experience that you wanted to share with everybody?
Yeah. Well, let me finish my story. So
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't finish it. I don't want to leave you hanging. So Divine Mother, I'm like, what is going on?
Oh, yes, Divine
And then
Mother.
I saw the teeth fall out, and I thought, oh my God, I knew it. As soon as I saw the teeth, and it came to me, I understood, oh my God, she's telling me, go take your calcium, or your teeth are going to fall out. Go take your...
That's the meaning right there.
So I got up and I had some calcium. Yeah, it was beautiful. So that's the way that the divine will come into your life when you work with an Ishta process. And the Christians are really a great example of this. They are just powerhouses of prayer, and that is an Ishta process, and they're just really, really good at it. So they're a perfect example of success with
Because I know we basically, when we have these visions, they always are symbolic. They're never really like, I'm just going to tell you flat out what you need to do. Because I feel like that ruins the whole ability for you to grow. So it will show you, okay, hey, look at my teeth. What do I do? Oh, calcium. Okay. Enamel. Do I have to brush my teeth? Maybe I have to do more of that. But calcium, that makes sense, right? And I've gotten visions like that as well, too. They don't just come out and say what you need to do. And I have people that have come to me and said, Brad, that drives me nuts. Why can't they just come out and tell me straight out exactly what I need to do? Because then you won't learn that way.
That's right.
You won't learn anything. This is all about your empowerment. It's all about you through self-realization, right? So they'll give you clues. They'll give you hints through your Ishta that way. Through whether it's people who are connected with Jesus or Buddha, Mahavatar Babaji, for myself, for example, and just being able to get those messages that relate to vision and metaphor and analogy that still impacts you for something that you need to do. So that's a great demonstration of
Awesome.
of an Ishta situation. So, well, great. Well, I'm glad you got your calcium.
I know, right? For my life now, what I... There's a speaker, I think. For now, what I talk a lot about on my channel is that we are building skills, right? And a lot of people look at a technique, or they look at a religion, or they look at a philosophy, and I'm over here going, behind all of that is this skill set, this yogic skill set that you are developing inside of yourself, inside of your body and your subconscious. And we're learning that, we're growing in that. We're growing in heart rate variability resonance. We're growing in the tranquil breath, in the freeze response, in the roll-up of consciousness. These are the essential Kriya Yoga skills. And so the beautiful thing is, as you cultivate these, and I think you can testify to this as well, that as you grow in those, they start happening faster and faster and faster. And so now it's kind of a race. It's like I have the Om Japa Kriya, and so I'm doing the Om Japa, and it's kind of a race. Like how many Oms can I get in before the freeze response just takes over so completely, and it's just so delicious. It's like, nope, you're done. You're not. The doing is done, and now it's time to be.
Right? Exactly. I guess someone's asking, like, how long should I be doing each Kriya? Like, should I be dedicating 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day for this? Is there a certain range of how much time we should dedicate towards our Kriya practices?
Sure. It's really, so it's about those skills, and it's about growing in those skills. And so if we hear, which happens a lot, about all these yogis and they're doing 6-hour meditations. Right. Like I know of somebody that teaches Kriya, and they won't take a student if they're not meditating 6 hours already. And while, I can understand some, I have a completely
45 minutes is my limit.
I have a completely different perspective, which is that if you push yourself into a meditation which is uncomfortable and beyond your capacity of skill, now you're forcing. And that's the left brain.
Yes.
Everything we've been talking about, that's about...
tractor beam.
That's right. That's the sympathetic system. And now you've obviated the whole purpose, which was to get into the parasympathetic and the right brain.
Yeah.
And so it has to come from a sense of flow. It has to come from your heart, from, oh my God, I love this. This yoga is so great because I get the calmness, I get this little bit of bliss, I get this little bit of joy. The love in my heart is starting to explode more easily. And then out of that, so I start out small with maybe a little bit of on my channel, I teach heart rate variability resonance. I have an app for it.
I'm teaching that as well too. So.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And so out of that little bit of practice, I start with 5 minutes. 5 minutes becomes 10 because I love it that much. That becomes 15 because I love it that much. And then oh my God, I sat for 20 minutes. It felt like 5 minutes. And now you know you're on the right track. You're growing it out of your skills, out of your skill. The skill itself is growing. And that's, you know, you're on the right track.
And the timer is the left brain, really.
Yes.
If I need to set a timer for all this stuff, and then I'm kind of being too left brain oriented, and that's going to prevent me from enjoying what I'm actually going to experience by going into the right brain.
Ding, 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 ding.
There you go. What's my prize? That's it. Well, Forrest, this has been a wonderful conversation with you. I know a lot of my subscribers on the channel are going to benefit a lot from this. Awesome. So again, guys, just go down to the video description. You'll find Forrest's YouTube channel there as well too. You're also on Patreon as well too. So are you taking on some students for Patreon as well?
Absolutely. Everybody's welcome to join, and I make it very easy for people, and I do satsangs, and so if you're interested in this kind of thing, we talk a lot about it.
I'll be there. Great. Thank you very much, guys. Take care, and I'll speak to you again in another perspective. But now, Om Shanti 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 Namaskar. May it be well with you. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in to New Earth Teachings on YouTube. Don't forget to check out our websites, newearthteachings.com, where you can do private sessions with me, and also etherics.co. And through Etherics, you'll be able to pick up your Healing Code Cards body deck, your mind deck, and your energy deck through Etherics. You will also be able to pick up the Etherbed kit. That is also on Etherics as well. Not to mention that you'll also be able to pick up some apparel and accessories that is also available on Etherics. Thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next one. Om Shanti 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 Namaskar, and may it be well with you.